Hi, this is Randy Randall of No Age and host of the podcast Hyphenate with Randy Randall. I want to welcome our newest sponsor of the show, DistroKid. DistroKid helps musicians get their music on all the major streaming platforms, and artists keep 100% of their royalties. Hyphenate listeners get 30% off at distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate. Again, that's distrokid.com/VIP/HYPHENATE. Go get your music streaming everywhere now. What's happening? Thanks for tuning in to Hyphenate Halftime. I'm here. My name is Randy Randall, and I am here, and I'm here. That's it.
I am here.
And I'm here.
You are here.
And I'm also here with Aaron Farley. How you doing today, Aaron Farley?
I'm doing well.
Oh, that's good.
Well.
Are you there? I'm here and you are there.
I am there.
I'm there. Okay.
I'm officially there, and you are officially here.
That's it.
But not.
Who's on first?
Yes.
Oh,
we're here.
Lord.
They're
yeah.
there.
Yeah. Monday, July 22nd. How is summer going? Jesus Christ.
This summer is
happening.
I mean, school-wise, summer is coming to an end, which is crazy.
Oh, for the school you've been taking or the school you've been teaching?
Well, no, I'm done with school.
Okay, yeah.
Although I had to take one more credit class that I just finished.
Motherfucker, what was that?
Couple
Basket Weaving 101?
It was about mental health and teaching. It was actually a good one.
That's actually good.
But
that's a good thing.
Yeah, but I also I'll say this: if you're in Los Angeles and you want to go to a gallery that's called the Pit in LA, which is in the kind of Glendale-ish area, they have some amazing baskets right now by an artist who did basket. But they're baskets, but they're not baskets. They're like kind of sculptures. But yeah, anyway.
Oh, that sounds cool.
But it made me think of basket weaving, which is funny you said that. So I'm like, that's so funny that was always that. How did that become the
shit
joke?
Talking?
Like underwater basket weaving or whatever. Like
I feel like that was like very like guidance counselor, like high school like guidance counselor, like. You know, what are you taking? Basket Weaving 101? We had a very like New York, East Coast kind of guy. What the fuck was his? I can't remember his name. But yeah, he'd always walk around like, hey, what are you guys doing? What's going on over here? I'm like, I'm just trying to learn, trying to go to college. All right, there you go.
That's so funny. Did you ever meet with your guidance counselor at the end of high school?
Oh, yeah.
The career.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of career? I do remember having a meeting. I don't remember any specific. Do you have like a memory?
I
for
do.
Specifics?
I got a good one.
You do,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I have no memory for specifics. So when I even being in school and seeing like the counselors and the kids going to the counselors, I'm like, I remember one time sitting with the counselor and just going, I don't understand what we're doing here. I do understand, like, I'm supposed to tell you what I want to do for the rest of my life. But I also am just sitting here going, oh, what do you do? How did you get here? Like, I just remember thinking, like, did you say in high school that you wanted to be a counselor for high school kids?
Look, punk, this isn't about me. It's about you. Get off my back.
That was the only thing going through my head. And then I don't remember. I mean, I think at that point, like, I really liked being outside, so I think I wanted to be a forest ranger.
Yay!
Or work construction. I think one of those two. I was like, I think construction was pretty fun. I had worked construction.
Yeah,
I was like, it's pretty fun. You get to be outside and you like hand boards to people and they make houses. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty amazing. Turns out I did not get along. I didn't necessarily enjoy the very specific camaraderie that comes along with construction. When I was a 17-year-old, I'm like, wow, I don't know if I could take this much shit for the rest of my life every single day of work. I don't think I could just be like hammered endlessly with just like, you're not good enough. But no, I'm just kidding. No, you suck. Nah, I'm just kidding, man. Hey, go give me that hammer. And then like the hammer's like stuck to the ground. He fell for it. I'm like, I don't know how many years I don't think I could take this for much longer than a couple months.
I think
which proved to be true. I took it for a couple months, 2 different summers in a row, and then I was like, and it was funny because my dad, who grew up doing construction, but then became an accountant, but then later on in life became an accountant for a construction company. So then he was always around that. And I'm like, oh, I guess I'll go do construction. And then after my summer, him going, he's like, what'd you think? And I'm like, he's like, well, sometimes it's good to know what you're not going to do. And he's like, that's why you get jobs when you're a kid, so you know what not to do.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you passed the test. I mean, I think that's, 95% of people, the first month on any construction site is get this guy the fuck out of here. Like the sooner he quits or the sooner he walks, the better, the smoother this job goes. It's not meant for people, what I mean? And then if you're too dumb to quit, then you're on the job.
You're in.
Then
man.
You're in. You're like, sorry.
Yeah.
And everybody feels bad for you. They're like, fuck, you should have done anything else, kid. Like everybody there. I mean, and again, in generalities, but the idea being, that you're not, if you can do anything else, especially when you're young. Yeah.
What's a little bit like I feel like construction or any of that, like really difficult physical labor is a little bit like the bottom rung of like the military. Like you get that kind of like, listen, you don't need to be a lot of things in this job, but what you need to not do is not follow the rules. Because the second that you follow the rules, you're like, I'm just going to carry this board over this hole or whatever. And you're like, no, and then you fall and hit somebody else over the head and you're, it's like you have to, it's all about the person that's above you. And then that person is above them. And because there's that chain of like, no, this is how these things work. And if you fuck up that chain, then that's when this whole thing falls apart. So as long as you know who's in charge all the time,
that's true in almost any job. You know what I mean? I think that's in general. You're there to make your boss look better,
stuff,
and they're there to make their boss
look better. It's a lot more like there's like life and death. Stuff involved, right? Mm-hmm. So all those guys have had the scary moments. I mean, I had a moment where I was driving one of those what's like the little tiny lifts. What's it called?
Forklift?
Oh my God.
Scissor lift?
Yeah, but the little tiny ones.
Oh, okay.
With the bucket in the front. Oh my God.
Cherry picker?
I'll figure it out. But anyway, and I was doing this big thing of concrete and, it had the cage on it. And I hit the wrong thing, dumped it and dumped probably a 700-pound concrete block on top of the cage. And I'm like, oh, this is why you need to learn the rules.
Yeah. Oh, it's right? like a backhoe or something, or like a bobcat.
Yeah, but a bobcat.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Right,
it's like a little bobcat, and I was just moving stuff around and
gotcha.
I learned how to use this in 30 minutes. I got the little 30-minute training. Yep. Nope. That is why you learn from the guy who's giving you shit for 6 months, because he needs to know that you can take that you can take everything that he says.
Literal.
Seriously.
Yeah. Do everything they say. Getting back to the high school counselor. So I'm trying to remember, I want to say it was like Mr. Conoco or something like that. But again, he seemed like he was from another generation. Absolutely. I mean, this was late 90s and, the fuck is his name? I want to say Mr. Calico, Mr. Conoco. Maybe that sounds right. Anyway, my brothers who were, 10, 11, 12 years older than me, had him as well. And my mom was one of those moms that would fuck shit up. She didn't care, who you were, what your job was, but she would, if you were messing with the kids or whatever, she would go in there and nope, my kid, he's not wrong, you're wrong, or what are we doing here? And she would go in and give everybody a hard time. So I think she'd gone through it for 4 years with my brothers, or more than 4 years, and had it out with him. And then 10 years later, here I come, like, Randall, are you Jovi's kid? Like, yep. I'm like, all right. I know who I'm messing with now. Like, it's like, I don't want to hear from your mom. I don't want your mom coming down here and talking to me.
You're good, kid.
Yeah.
You're good.
Keep your nose clean. So he was relatively nice, but I think, we had the talk of like, well, what do you want to do? And I think at the time I was very motivated through high school. Like I hung out with older kids, like, I just had friends who were older, and I had my brother's friends who were older, and I kind of had the sense of like, there's a life out there and it's not here. At 15, 16, I was going to shows and learning guitar and got a 4-track. I was like, okay, this is the future. I see a pathway through this. Like, I'm not, the road doesn't end at high school. Like, in fact, it just starts. I'm on the side. I can't wait for this thing to be over so I can get out there and start living life. So I knew where I wanted. So anyway, but I was taking a class, it was like Saturday High at Art Center in Pasadena. That was kind of like high school classes. And so I was taking one that had to do with film, and but I think because it was Art Center, the counselor was like, "Oh, like animation, like you want to do art?" And I'm like, "No, it's like a film class, like art on film, like animation." All right, yeah, you're an animator. Okay, cool. I wrote that down.
Hey, like some Mickey Mouse type of stuff.
Yeah, like, all right, you're animation. So every once in a while he'd look at me and go, we'd pass in the hallways. I was like, "Hey, how's that animation going, Randall?" Like, good, I guess. I never wanted to do that. I also don't want to have a conversation with you about this, and I'm just gonna say yes. That sounds good. Yeah. And then we met later, and then it's all that, the different things you go in their official meetings they have to have, and check it off their list. And he's like, so they got a good animation program over here at the local the local college. I'm like, oh yeah, well I've already applied to NYU and Loyola and USC. Like, oh, all right, they probably got a good animation program there too. I'm like,
yeah, somewhere,
probably. And my mom was just like, what the fuck is this guy? Like, she was done with him. She didn't want to talk to him anymore either. So he was trying to get me to go to the local community college. And meanwhile, I'd already kind of figured out a road that was going to lead me to a different path.
Listen here, buddy, you don't want to dream too big.
Yeah, I don't know if he gets a kickback for every student that he can refer, on who goes to the community college. He gets a kind of like a little punch card and like, all right, here's $5 for each kid that enrolls.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, but the funny thing about him, so everybody had, it was like so many other friends and other people you knew this guy, and I had a good friend who was a few years older than me. His name was Niaz. He was, from his parents were from India, but he, grew up in the States, but he had the same counselor, and he had the best story about him. He's like, it was his senior year, and this guy he looks like, like someone out of Barney Miller or something, who dressed with, the polyester slacks, like, a button up shirt and a tie, kind of, but a polyester suit, and like an extra from the Sabotage video or something. He just had that look or something, bald, kind of a Alan Arkin-esque type of person, hey, all right. And he's like, Niaz, did you get all the classes you wanted? He's like, no. He's like, oh, maybe I'll get them next year. He's like, I'm a senior. He's like, well, there you go. It's like, what the fuck? No, none of this shit worked for me at all. You never learned my name. You never got me the classes I wanted to get. I'm dying out here. I'm just struggling to get through and pass this fucking thing. Like, all right, sounds good. See you later.
Hey, close enough. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly. It reminds me of what is it, like the Charles Bronson-esque character from The Simpsons. Okay, Bally boy. Hey, Belly boy. All right. Hey. So I had this guy.
What do we got working over here?
Yeah. What do you got? But it was fun though, because in high school I did, so I ended up getting accepted to USC, University of Southern California, and the principal, I remember, it was a big one. I didn't know, at the time what a big college it was. So I was just trying to figure out, like, I was obsessed with Star Wars and movies and things, and USC was a film program, and George Lucas, and I was like, okay, I'll do that. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Be George Lucas. And then, but the principal came in, and he drove a powdered blue, like 50s Mustang, and he went to UCLA. Okay. And wow. so he came in, and he called me up in front of the class it was my AP English class. I was kind of an overachiever as a kid, and so he called me up, and I was like, I was in trouble or something, like, Randall, and you see you in front of everybody. What? Like, what the fuck did I have like straight A's? I'm in an AP class. I just got accepted to a college. Like, what is it going to do to me now? Like, why can't, like, I think I was so afraid of getting in trouble. Like, what is this? And he made a big speech to the class and just about how it was a terrible school and I was going to waste my future, everything. And he's like, but then they turn around at the end, it was a joke. He's like, but everyone here at the high school is really proud of you and you're going to do great things. That kind of thing. I was like, oh geez. But really, it was just like the ball busting of, I think he used to be the football coach and somehow became the principal just through attrition, 3 years of being there, like going back through the old yearbooks and stuff, looking at the 70s yearbook, he had hair and wasn't as, and skinnier and was like coaching football and doing PE and somehow he became the principal.
So he just stuck around long enough.
I think so. Yeah. Principal, Dr. Gunn. He became a doctor at some point too. I don't know. We had to call him Dr. Gunn. Dr. Gunn was the principal of the
Maybe
high
his
school.
name was just Devin Reed. He just started like, hey, just put that as DR.
Yeah.
Looks better, right?
Go ahead and call me Dr. Gunn.
DR Gunn.
I didn't spend 2 years and after, late night online college getting my fake PhD. So don't be called doctor. I don't know. Maybe it was smart. I don't know what the hell it was. But again, it was that kind of thing. We never really talked to the principal, but these guidance counselors, we dealt with them all the time. It's a funny moment though. Yeah, I definitely remember interacting with those people and being like, but the best, if I could just ramble for 2 more seconds about high school,
yes, please.
We'll talk more, but the best teacher I had was this Mr. Izette, and he was a history teacher, and he was, so this was probably senior year probably senior year. And I had one of those things where I was always like doing well in school. And so I got into the AP history class, and it was taught very dryly by this very like, monotone kind of Ben Stein-esque, but like more boring, paint drying kind of teacher.
Even more boring.
Yeah. But it was one of those rooms that had like a corrugated kind of like room divider. And then Mr. Izette's history class was right behind us. And so, and I could hear them laughing and he's telling big jokes and getting big responses. And this guy's just literally droning on, and it's within the first week. And, I just was like, I'm doing this wrong. Like, I don't need the credits. Like, I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things. It's like, I just thought I was supposed to do this. I just kept achieving because I thought it was what we were supposed to do. But I was like, the quality of life here is not what it needs to be here. I could tell even as a high school, as a high school senior, I was like, I really could take it pretty easy. I've worked really hard. Yeah. I've done all the things. I got in all the classes, and I think I could get some senioritis going here. I could start coasting a little bit more. Why am I pushing myself? No one gives a shit. And so I walked over to his class, and it was in the first week, and I was like, so Mr. Izette, and I think his kids were the same age as my brothers, and so my mom knew him, and he knew my brothers, and he knew my mom, and so I how's it going? How's your mom? How's your brother? Okay, all right. And he always had jokes and was outgoing, really funny guy, and I said, yeah, I'm in the AP class. He's like, congratulations, that's great. And I was like, yeah, but I don't like it. I don't love it here. I don't know. This isn't really. I think I probably said something probably rude about the teachers. Like, oh, I see. Well, he's like, and I think he said something. Well, if you go and talk to your counselor or talk to somebody, you probably could get, like, he didn't want to give in he didn't want to like validate my shit talking, but he also understood what I was trying to say. He's like, yeah, you probably could fix that. Go talk to somebody. If you give me that piece of paper, I'll sign it or something. If you get him to sign it, I'll sign it. We can all sign it. And so I had to do something, and it was cool. And then I got in his class, and it was great because I think he had a passion for teaching, and he really liked teaching, and he seemed to really care about the kids and stuff. And he had this great thing, and maybe this is this was becoming high school talk or teacher talk. But the thing that he would do is if someone was coming in to observe the class, he told all the kids, like, everybody has to raise their hand. He's like, because they're looking to see if you guys are engaged or not, And so he says, but if you know the question, raise your right hand. But if you don't know, or if you know the answer to the question, raise your right hand. If you don't know the answer to the question, raise your left hand. He's like, and I'll call on the people that know know the answer. But it looks like everybody's involved and excited. And like the whole class raises their hand every time he asks any questions, and they always get it right.
Just like, wow, that's amazing.
But I think like he just done it so long. And I remember at some point, like, someone did come in to observe the class, and sure enough, and he did the whole thing, and we all did it, but it felt like we were on his side. Like we were co-conspirators.
Yeah.
With
like
him.
You were doing something that was a little bit like you were tricking them.
Yes.
Like you're part of the joke.
but we were on his side, that kind of thing of like, it was, so it was really
awesome.
sweet. But there was definitely, and there was a moment at some point, like, we're talking American history and kind of talking about the South and the Civil War and these things. And there was, an African-American student who, it was like the test day. It's Friday. We're supposed to have our test. And she asked a question and about, slavery. And he was like, well, he's like, well, what do you mean? And like, well, how, something, it was something kind of like not obvious, but just sort of like, well, there's more going on here. And he's like, well, yeah, he's like, well, yeah, this was a major part of the economy of the United States. And she just kind of seemed like, was sort of hearing this for the first time. He started asking, he's like, has no one ever really talked to you about this? And she said, no. And so he just went into a whole different lesson, or it wasn't even a lesson, but it was a story kind of explaining, sort of the basic tenets of pre-Civil War, American economy in the South, or just sort of in the legal sort of status of slavery and what some of the tenets behind Civil War were. And I think we'd covered it in sort of bigger ways, but I think he tailor-made, this kind of off-the-cuff lecture and answered a lot of people's questions. A lot of people had questions like, well, wasn't it illegal? Like, no, it wasn't legal. Like, well, why did nobody do this? Or why did nobody do that? And like, well, some people did, some people didn't. And here's, those kinds of things. And had this whole kind of just real frank discussion with a bunch of high school seniors about slavery in America and what it was like and how, how it changed and how it didn't, but how the Civil War didn't fix all of it and how there was still racism and all these other things. And this really kind of nuanced, interesting, very unique moment. And I think at some point we realized like, oh, the class is almost over. Like we're not even gonna have the test. And I think even someone even brought that up. Like, wait, are we supposed to have the test? He's like, fuck the test. This is so much more important than anything that we're going to do on the test. Like, we'll do the test another day. It doesn't matter. I don't even care if we ever do the test. He's like, if you guys leave high school not understanding, America and what it was founded on and how it worked and what people fought for and why things are the way they are, it's like, then what the hell are we doing here? It's not about the test. It's about, hopefully, understanding, like, history isn't about tests. History is about all these other things that, people and understanding the context for why we are in the world we are now and all these things. It was just like, whoa. And I remember, I think everybody, but definitely I had that impact on me. It was like, that was incredible. Like, that was more than just school. It felt like somebody who really cared and really took the time to spend time with a bunch of kind of snotty, bratty high school kids, but didn't mind it and actually enjoyed his time there. So he was something really special. Mr. Isette. Yeah.
That is so interesting because I was just trying to remember teachers from high school and I don't really remember any other than, but I remember a couple moments and they were kind of those moments where the teacher broke out of whatever was normal and went, wait, we're going to talk about this other thing for a little bit. And even like in the math, I remember like a pre-calculus class or something like that. And it's pre-calculus. It's not like, it's not that exciting. And, and I remember one day he just goes, who here has balanced a checkbook?
Yes.
And everyone's like, what? And he's like, you guys ever balanced a checkbook? I'm like, no, what's balancing a checkbook? And he's like, have you ever heard of an investment? And I was like, no, I don't know what that is. Have you ever heard of a savings account? And I was like, yeah, I've heard of a savings account. This is probably where like sophomores, maybe.
Yeah.
Juniors. And then I just remember him going, he's like, I'm going to show you a math equation. And he showed us this equation of like, he's like, you guys are all like 16, 17. If you take 10% of every single thing you've ever made, so every check you make, you just take 10% and put it in a savings account. Never touch it. And then he went on this whole thing about compound interest.
Wow.
And I didn't take any of it for advice.
But you knew what it was.
No. Totally. It made me feel real guilty my whole life every time I would get a check. I mean, still now. Am I sound?
You were buzzing for a second, yeah. But
still now, every time I get a check, I'm like, man, I should be putting 10% of this into the. But then he's like, you'll have $1 million. He just did the equation. He's like, you'll have $1 million by the time that you're 65 or whatever.
Yeah, we were definitely the generation where like $1 million was the thing.
Yeah,
was the thing to shoot for. Somehow there was this
$1 million. Yeah.
Now it's like, oh geez, oh that's it. Okay, well $1 million would get you for a little while, but God, you're not really going to be able to retire on that.
Yeah, that's before taxes or after? Okay, let's get real. Let's get real here, teacher.
Yeah,
we talking before taxes or after taxes?
What state two people. Yeah, I mean,
what state do we have? Do we have income tax in our state, or where are we at?
Yeah. Oh, it's insane. Yeah. Well, that was good though. I'm glad you asked about the high school stuff. It's funny. I definitely have not thought about that in a long time.
Well, and I'm like right in the middle of it because I'm prepping for this new position in the fall, and so I've been having a lot of conversations with teachers and stuff, and then all the things that I'm freaking out about it, they're like, because
the old teachers they know it's like, yeah,
well, they're like, you'll be fine. Just you're really trying to get these kids to learn how to learn. That's it. I mean, like, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The great thing about teaching is that if you're into it, you try something out and you go, well, this part worked, this part didn't work, and then you change it, and then you try it tomorrow, and then you change it, and then you try it, and then eventually, like, every once in a while something goes like, oh, that whole thing worked, and all the kids finished it, and whatever. But they're like, most of the time you're just like putting out fires and trying to get kids to be slightly better kids than when they came into your class. Okay, it makes me feel better.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, even from my my short time as a sub and the long-term sub assignments I had, like sometimes they're like, why do you need it? Like, I'm never going to use this, or why do I need to know that? And it's like, you're really just training your brain to pay attention to something, to hold abstract concepts in your head. And they just kind of look blank at you. I'm like, well, it's in general, it's just you're working your brain out. It's good for your brain. You're going to make your brain stronger by holding this idea of an unknowable thing, an unknowable quantity, B, or solve for B. It's like, well, what's B? It's like, well, exactly. And you got to, you can hold these abstract thoughts in there, and there's some kind of ways of thinking, and then you try to equate that to something else. Like, if you're trying to solve the thing, like how much money your friend stole from you. You don't know how much.
Right.
That's an unknown number, right? Now you're trying to solve for that.
Yeah.
You have this much. You started with that much, and now he's like, "Well, but I stole anything." Like, well, that's now you care. Like, my friend would never steal from me. You don't even know him, Mister. Like, okay, just saying.
All right, buddy. You're right. Point, I don't know your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, totally. And trying to get it through, like, try to get it through to them of like, you guys, everything that you learn is not important. unless you use it, right? Like someone could show you how to fix your car, and then you go, yeah, whatever, mister. And then, right? But then you're like, well, yeah. But then when you go to the mechanic, and he goes, oh, you got a flat tire, and you go, that's not a tire. I learned what a tire is, right? And he's like, oh, dang, you got me, right? Like,
totally.
Just having information and creative. I mean, I think we've talked about this before, but I think even because I'm going into art, like teaching art, and I think so much of it gets kind of romanticized of like, oh my God, it's art.
Yeah.
It's like this, like
capital A.
And
the
right.
Big art.
And people go, oh, I don't know what art is. And I'm not good at art. My mom told me I wasn't good at art when I was a kid, or some teacher told me I wasn't good at art when I was a kid. And really, like, even all of this, it's like, okay, we've never seen a middle school art project from a famous artist, right? Like, none of them are showing their work from when they were 12. So it's not like you're not trying to get these like big, important, esoteric, beautiful work out of these kids. Like, you're trying to get them to learn about different modes of working visually to tell a story. That's kind of it. And really, like, it doesn't matter what it ends up with, because even the majority artists that we know or musicians or whatever, 80 to 90% of what you work on never makes the final record, because it's like working your way up to some piece, and then finally you go, ooh, I'm going to take that little 5-second piece. That's the one. That other 5 minutes that I played is trash, but it got me to this little snippet. And I feel like getting kids to think of art more that way, of like, it doesn't matter. I don't care what the drawing looks like. I don't care what the painting looks like. I care that it's like you're working things out to where you got to this place, and you can go, oh, that doesn't look right because I put the wrong colors together. Like, bingo, correct.
Now,
100%.
yeah.
Right? Like you
Even if you got it wrong, but
don't,
you know why it's wrong. There we go.
yeah,
You
and you
learned
know
something.
that if you put those 3 colors together, it ends up looking muddy and nothing stands out and blah 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 blah. Like, that's what you need to know, because that's going to help you later, and it also gets your brain moving when you go out in the world and you look at things and you go, oh, this house isn't designed right. Why is it this way? And you go, oh, maybe you're going to be an architect, right? Or maybe
Yeah.
you're going to be an interior designer, or maybe you're going to be a contractor, or maybe whatever. But you learn how to like have these creative thoughts, like creative problem solving. And I think that sometimes, like, that we may be able to change art by calling, like in school, by calling it like creative visual problem solving, or something like that, where kids are like, oh, I'm just here, I'm doing fun projects, and they're not like, oh, I'm not an
Making
artist.
art.
Right.
Yeah. Or even
I think
just finishing something as simple as like, yeah, it looks terrible, but you finished it. Like, don't give up on the thing because it's not what you wanted it to be. Because I think, we know as creatives, like that's the lesson. The lesson is to just do it, even if it's not good. That's not for you to judge at some point. Like, it's better a finished bad thing is way better than a brilliant unfinished thing.
Exactly. Totally. And I think, funny enough, to bring it back to your interview.
Oh yes, yes.
You guys talked about this a bit, right? Like, finishing art and finishing music, or he had gone to painting school when he was a kid, or college, right?
Yeah.
Got a painting school. I'm like, I'm going to be a painter, and then you get beat down by the other artists a bit, and then
unsolicited criticisms.
Yeah, but that's kind of part of it. It's funny. It's even coming back to the you have to coming back to the construction thing. Like, you have to be willing to take the abuse of whatever group you want to be in. Right?
Yes.
Like, if you find something you love, you're like, well, this is the group of people who I want to take a ton of abuse from.
Oh yeah, totally. Or just having that thing of like knowing how to have that thick skin, or what to put up with and what not to put up with, or to kind of go like, yeah, I think accepting criticism's huge. And especially when you're young, having the ability to withstand someone saying what they like and don't like about something, and then developing that skill within yourself to have that, to have that part of your brain. Cause I think so much of the creativity in those early years is just that unbridled sort of like, if people are passionate, if they do like art, like you're saying as an art teacher, it's like something like, oh, I'm not good at art. I don't like art. I don't know about art. But the other side of it, someone's just as bad as like, I love art. I'm great at it. Look at this. And you're just like, wow, you just exploded on a thing. Like, it's not really art. There was not really like, it's not it's not really controlled or interesting in any way. It's kind of cliche and kind of boring and odd and offensive.
Yeah. I don't see any subject matter, or I don't see any like,
but then they can't take, but then it's like but then to go like, but it's good. Keep doing it and you'll refine it and you'll get better at it. But here are some things to think about as you go with it, as you continue to do it. And then it's like, oh, I'm wounded. You just sunk my boat. And you're like, no. Like, that's you have to be able to like try to get outside of yourself.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of times that I've thought I had some genius thing and I showed it to someone and they went, huh.
Yeah.
I go, oh, wait, I'm looking at this all wrong, huh? Yeah. Wow. Okay. I could see where you're going, kind of, with this a little bit. I like the colors.
Oh, it's the
The
worst
amount of times
feeling.
that
You're
you're
like,
just like, oh my
no.
god, why am I doing this? I suck. This is horrible.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's funny though. It really did make me think. Like even when he talked about that with the because you get it. I hear it a lot of times with like, well, what did critics know? They don't know anything and they never make art and blah blah blah. And you're like, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's part of that is true, but the other part is like they actually may be a very good person that's done a lot of study and that can actually like connect all these dots to like, yeah, listen, anybody can make art, right? Like anybody can make music. It doesn't mean that it's good. It doesn't mean that it fits in necessarily with like the lexicon of everything else that's happening. That's the industry part of it, or that's the work part of it. Like if you want this to be part of your work, you have to find out where your work fits in with the story of art in general, right? Or the story of music in general.
Yeah.
If you want this to be your job, or if you want this to be if you want to be in that story. But if you don't, your work is just as valid sitting in your room and getting your ideas out and your colors and it's just as valid sitting in your room. You don't have to show it to anybody ever.
Right. Yeah.
Like you're probably getting as much out of being creative and making a painting and then burning it and throwing it away as any artist is having it up in a museum, right? Like personal validation of like, oh my god, I got this thing out, I feel amazing about it. And then it's like having a workout or whatever. Like you're getting all these things out, you're doing this thing, you're making a song, you're like sitting in your bedroom twiddling away on your whatever. But then the second you want to put it out into the world to become part of that story, the only way that it gets there is through critique, because it has to fit in somewhere. You have to find a venue. The venue has to maybe plays only a certain types of bands, and so you have to find the right venue, and you have to find the right person who can put you with these other bands to put you in front of these people. And like the social aspect of it is way different than or not way different, but it's just a different aspect of the art part, the creation part. And I think like those things can get like mixed up sometimes, and like, oh, you just don't understand, blah blah blah. Like, well, maybe, but then that means you got to find someone who does understand it. And if nobody understands it, it might be you.
Something to think about. Yeah. Well, I think it definitely reminds me too, like with my own, personal stories. It just, I feel like I played music for so long to mostly no one giving a shit in a bigger, in the larger sense. And still, even when people did give it, when there was some attention paid or people were like, wow, that's really good. At that point, I think I would become so numb to the idea realistically. Like it was definitely nice. Like, oh, wow, really? But I don't think it didn't really validate or play a bigger part into what I was making or why I was making it. Mm-hmm. It was such a funny thing at that point. Like I think I had found the engine or the motivator that just allowed me. I found satisfaction in making songs for song's sake or making art for art's sake. Like this is just interesting to me. This is the outcome of a problem or an experiment or a thought or a feeling I had. And this is what came out of that. And therefore the ring of creativity was closed. Like, what would it sound like if I did this? Or here's an idea. What if could I finish it doing it this way? Or should I do it this way? And then you finish the thing and you go, okay, great, now that's done. And then somebody else hears it or it gets, it's played for someone and they're like, wow, I really like that song. I remember almost like laughing at them or just laughing at the situation. Like, that's insane. Why? Why would you like that song? That doesn't make any sense. Like, somebody's like, I really like your band. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't even know what this is. Like, I remember that was my honest reaction in the beginning of like, that doesn't make any sense. Like you're influenced by something else that is not the band, because you've known me long enough and you've heard all my dumb songs up until this point, that for some reason you think now is the time to like whatever it is I'm doing. Something else is going on. There's some other like unseen force or seen, you know what I mean? It was like, so maybe someone told you we're popular and now you think you like the band or whatever it is. Or maybe I just couldn't take a compliment, you know?
I mean, that's probably more true, because I think also sometimes that because, you know, you're around all of these people that are making music and making art and doing all these things, and you're compelled to contribute to that in some way, in a personal way, but that maybe those things, it's just that time where people before a year ago is like, I don't know what all this noise is.
Yeah.
And then they hear 4 other bands that are coming from a similar place that you're at, and slowly like their ear palette gets like, oh wait, oh okay, I can hear those screechy guitars, I can hear those weird samples, I can hear that kind of stuff now. Because I remember when talking to my mom about, you know, listening to music in high school, and she's like, it just all sounds the same to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is me playing like Metallica and Led Zeppelin and, you know, whatever other rock music. She's just like, it just sounds like loud, like screechy. I can't hear anything. I can't hear any of the song.
Yeah.
I can't hear any of the instruments, because her brain is just like, I don't know what this is.
Sure.
And so I think sometimes people's brains acclimate to whatever, and then they go back and they hear your song and they go, oh wait, oh, I get it now.
He's doing that thing.
Cool.
Yeah, there's a name for it.
You guys came around at the right time. It's perfect.
Definitely. Yeah, there's something for the right time, right place, right time. Yeah. I remember one of my mom's early critiques of, because I had no one to play songs for, you know, as in high school, and I'd make a song on a 4-track or something, but I'd play for my mom. I knew I wanted to play for somebody. I want somebody to hear it. You know, I guess I can't be so altruistic that it was like, oh, I just made it for myself and it was done. It was like, no, I knew, you know, I was proud of what I did. I was excited. I wanted to share it with someone. And so usually I'd share it with my mom. And then, and she usually would, you know, I remember one of the early words was like, oh, it's very discordant. There's a lot of discord in there. And I was like, her not knowing that Discord was a record label that I liked at the time. And I was like, cool. And I knew that's not what she meant. But in my mind, I was like, I don't know if she's trying to say that's a bad thing or a good thing, or if she didn't know the words. It's screechy. It's amelodic, unmelodic.
Yeah, she wasn't wrong.
You're right. You know, yeah, exactly. There's a lot of discordant sounds, which I did on purpose because that's what I wanted it to be. I liked that part of it. You know, I didn't want something that sounded, you know, the same all the way through. So it's hilarious. Yeah,
that's awesome.
But but Trevor was awesome. I really liked the conversation with him. I didn't know. Were you familiar with Tarantel or Lazarus? Or I mean, there's kind of like epic, you know, sort of bands along the lines of like Explosions in the Sky.
Yeah, right.
At that time.
Yeah, I mean when all of the bands that he was referencing, I knew, but I hadn't heard them. But I think that that was a really crazy time in music. I think it's like late 90s, early 2000s, and right when the internet is becoming a real thing that people are on, and like people are starting to talk to each other on it or communicate like music and bands, and I feel like that's right in the moment when everything started to kind of open up, like the music wise, like it became okay to listen to everything. Because all of a sudden, you know, you could go on a blog, and then people would put links up to different bands. And I mean, this was before, but that was even before like MP3s and stuff. That wasn't until a little bit later, like when you could actually trade music online. I don't know what years were that. Anyway, yeah, weird, crazy time in music.
LimeWire. I remember getting all kinds of bad viruses from LimeWire. Like, okay, cool. It says it's the song. Wait, now my computer doesn't work anymore.
Yeah,
what happened?
It says every single song
ever
made. I trust this.
That'd be cool. I remember getting the first like iPod I had, and we had one friend, Ben, who had like MP3s on a hard drive
Yeah.
or on a computer, and I think like we didn't even have a computer. I didn't even have a computer that that had iTunes or anything on it, but he knew how to do it, and so I remember he just going over to his house. He just loaded up all these like Ethiopics, like weird like volumes of like Ethiopian folk music or rock music or these Indonesian
wow.
kind of psych record. He just had whatever taste was his taste. I remember getting all those as MP3s. He's like dumped them on the iPod. I was like, cool, this is great. I have all this music. Like I didn't pick any of this, but it's cool. Like I feel like I have now like 70 records on this little like device. Like sweet.
It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I remember getting an MP3 CD.
Oh,
and then but it had
the irony of this.
Right, so it was a CD that someone had loaded up with MP3s, but I'm like, oh cool, and they were like, yeah, it has like 300 songs on it, and I'm like, I can just play them. No, you can't play them on your car, but you can take those and then put them on your computer, and then you can play them on your computer, but you can't play them on the CD. And then like
a data CD versus
it was just like a data
CD.
Yeah, and I was like, but they're songs though. And then when I put but then they started making MP3 CD players, and you could do that. This was like right before iPods, but that where all of those things were just changing and being like, and this is the time where Jeremy and I had our radio show on Kill Radio, and there was no way to like we were streaming it live through Real Player.
Oh God, Real Player.
But you couldn't record digitally. Like there was no recording software for online. So we had a real-time CD burner that
would crash every other night.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And we would burn the show in real time for like 2 hours, and then we'd hit record, save
eject,
or whatever,
print or something, burn.
Yeah, print. Yeah, and we'd have to sit there for like 20 minutes and be like, "Come on,
don't fuck it up,
come on." And like 75% of the time it would work, and then half the other 25, it'd be like error, ERR.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we lost the whole show.
We'll get them next time.
So funny, man.
It's hilarious.
Or and then we started doing a mini disc. Like we just do a mini disc, man.
Yeah, there was a whole world. I feel like there needs to be like a documentary or some kind of like look back on some YouTube channel. It's just the mini disc generation. Like what all the promise, what was
just those couple years.
Yeah.
For those couple years of mini discs. I still have some mini discs floating around from practices and stuff.
Oh yeah, Dean went all in on mini discs. Him and his brother.
Oh, did he?
I remember on those first couple tours we did. The first U.S. tour, 2003. We did, it was 2003, 2004, 2005, and by 2005 he just had everything on mini discs. It was just this insane like shoebox he would take on the road and just like, look at this, we could play this, we could play that, we could play this.
Well, I mean, I had like a pretty big CD collection after a while, and would bring it to the radio show because everything was CDs, and so and my car got broken into, and I got all of my CDs stolen.
Oh, brutal.
Like, I don't know how many. I mean, I wasn't bringing everything with me, but it was like it wasn't a shoebox. It was like 4 shoeboxes full.
This is the kind of story that's just incomprehensible to our children's generation. Totally. You know what I mean? Like, well, wait, Dad, why did you have the CDs in your car? Like, well, because there were CD players in the car. You could like you put a CD in your car, and like, yeah. And then, but why would anybody want to steal those? That doesn't make any. That's like stealing. Like,
don't they have their own?
The garbage out of your car seat.
Yeah.
It's like say you left a bag of old McDonald's and someone took it out of your car, and like why would anybody even steal that? It's worthless. Like, well, actually, you probably could sell it for like $10 to $20 if you stole a box of CDs.
Yeah, I mean, back then, living near Amoeba, you probably made $100 off that.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, they never paid that much.
No, especially, I mean, it was like, maybe
they were the good CDs. You had good CDs,
and then but then there was a lot of stuff that was like, whatever.
That's hilarious.
Anyway,
if you ever tried to sell a
who
CD at
knows?
Amoeba, you know they would, if you came with 100 CDs, they would take 2 and give you $10 for it.
Well, maybe they sold them on the side of the road then.
Yeah.
Made
But
all
was
the
I gonna say?
money.
Oh, but that's that around that time of those tours during the mini disc boom. It was, I worked at Amoeba, and I remember just grabbing some CD. Like, we could check CDs out, or records or DVDs or whatever. You could check them out. So it was kind of like a rental sort of policy for employees. And I remember, grabbing like a stack of CDs. I don't know, 10 CDs, and then just burning them all onto mini discs. Before the tour, because I got tired of just listening to whatever Dean's collection of mini discs were.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I want to get something better on
That's amazing.
on this tour coming up. And so I just went through and just would ransack all the aisles of stuff and just load it up. And I would let it like burn. I would load it on the mini. Must have had a CD player you would put to it or something. I don't know if you know how you did it. I don't remember.
Did you have a mini disc player? You probably could.
I had a mini disc player.
And then you just probably attached it into the aux of your.
Is that how they did it?
Stereo.
Yeah. And then how to do it in real time. I remember I had it set up in a closet up on the mezzanine at the old Amoeba, and I would let it burn to mini disc while I was working.
Oh, you'd actually do it at Amoeba?
I'd do it there. Yeah. And I had it just going in like real time. It must have been, maybe it was slightly faster. They could do it maybe 10x speed or something. Or like,
why did you, they're like, Randy,
so why keeps going back to the closet?
You got 4 CDs out this morning, and you returned them at the end of work.
Yeah. I don't know if it was exactly against the rules. It was one of those things I don't think anybody really knew. I don't think anyone had a rule in the rule book for that, or not to do that.
That's amazing.
Like, was I not supposed to do that? Was that not a thing? It's good. I don't know. I was predicting the downfall of the entire industry.
What's the statute of limitations on this?
Oh, right. Can I get fired from Amoeba?
Can you still get busted?
God. Well, that was the best.
Copyright infringement.
I think I've told this story before, but I loved working at Amoeba. It was amazing. There, I had like dental benefits, I had like health benefits, and worked, they took care of their employees very, very well. But I remember, again, it was this time though, I was just out of college and didn't know what I was trying to make it as with a band and playing music and stuff. And they knew that, it was like everybody there was playing in a band of some sort or another. But I kept leaving up for these tours, for these like month-long tours. And I think by the time we did the third year I was there, it was like, we should probably just stay on the road. We think, we think you're doing really well in music. You should just keep doing that. I was like, I know, but I don't make enough money on the tour. When I come back, I need a job. And they're like, yeah, but we believe in you. You should just keep doing it. I'm like, wait, what? And I was like, I didn't understand at first what they're saying. Like, oh, I'm being asked to not come back because I keep leaving too much. I take too much time off. And I didn't understand that was even a concept. I'm like, huh? What? I think you guys are cool.
That's a great way to get fired, though. Like,
yes,
Randy, you're really talented.
Yeah, we really think it's going to go for you. Yeah. I'm like, huh? Is that a thing?
Yeah. You're super talented. Don't come back.
Or I've heard in other like retail things, like you get promoted to customer. Like, wait, huh? Like, yeah, you get to be a customer now. You no longer work here. You're now the best thing you could possibly be in the store, a customer. Like,
yeah.
Oh,
customers are always right, man.
Yep. Go over there.
Think of that.
Just come back in and spend your money from a different job, because we're no longer going to be giving you any money for working here.
Yeah. Right. Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. But those were definitely fun days. But anyway, yeah, Trevor, again, he was such a delight, such a treat. I met him in New Zealand when I was there for that camp, and it was so funny. People were just kind of looking. It was one of those things, I understand with a little infinitesimally what it's like, to be a foreigner somewhere, and someone goes, "Oh, there's somebody from you know Trevor, right?" I'm like, "No, what do you mean?" Like, "Well, he's American. He lives here now." I'm like, "You're an American. You know the other American, right?" I was like, "No, I don't know." Not all Americans know each other just because we both come from America. And then I realized, like, oh, okay, they're probably 6 degrees separated.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think his story was really amazing, and then even him talking about ending up in New Zealand,
right? I mean, I feel a little jealous. It's like, yeah, if I could do that, I would do that.
Yeah, but then even hearing him going, like, when you're talking about being in a city and all these things going on, he's like, yeah, I miss it. I miss it a little bit, and I do feel that I feel that pain a little bit too, even though I'm like, yeah, but I'm only an hour and a half away from the insanity that can ensue. And it would be tough being like a 22-hour flight from.
You're pretty far away from stuff.
Yeah, right. Although he could go to Sydney or Melbourne or something. That's a pretty quick flight, I think.
But like,
from New Zealand.
like he was saying something in an interview too, where it was like telling people like, oh yeah, I would like drive on an 8-lane highway to go see a show, and then drive back at like 2 a.m, falling asleep in the car. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember I did that all the time. Just staying out too late as a kid, and like, oh, I got to get back home. I got to drive 2 hours or an hour back somewhere.
Yeah,
but it's just so funny for that to seem like such a strange thing to do. Like, oh God, that's growing up as a teenager in Southern California. Like, God, you just drove everywhere all the time on these giant highways with trucks and everything. But if you really lived in a small, village in New Zealand, that's not the common experience.
Even a big village in New Zealand.
It's true.
And I think too that there is, I mean, it is weird. Well, I've never been to New Zealand, but I know even going to other countries and going to Australia or even in Europe or whatever, and you get out and you walk around and you just realize like, oh, there's just like the vibe is different. And I think like the US has such a specific vibe, even in the city or the country or anywhere. There's like always kind of a vibe of like hustle, right? Like kind of everywhere. I don't know. Even in small places, there's always kind of a hustle. Like we gotta be hustle. There's got to be like, we got to get going. We got to do something. We got to
just a nervous like, energy, a certain
I think so. Yeah,
upness. Yeah,
whereas in a lot of those other places, I think it's I really think like if you have healthcare with your through your government, like you're never worried that like, well, if I break my leg, I'll be okay. That there's always this underlying thing here of like, okay, as long as no one takes my health insurance away, but that can happen, right? Like that can happen pretty easily.
Yeah.
that keeps everybody on edge all the time of like, just don't get sick. Just don't get, okay. Is that person going to get me sick? What are they going to take my job? That's the only way I have my health insurance. And I think when you go to those places that have health insurance built in, that people have a little bit more of a like, I mean,
no
things
big
will
deal.
work out.
Yeah, if it's not this job, I'll get a different job.
Yeah, just in general, things kind of work out a little bit. And if they don't, whatever. At least you can go to the doctor.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like the few takeaways I've gotten, just from being in like Western Europe, is it's really space related. I think we take for granted just how big everything is in America, and that's all very new. I mean, they have older things, much older things there, buildings and things, cities, roads, but everything's just much smaller and more compact.
Right.
Where here it's it's like this is whatever, just the land of warehouses and highways and big trucks and just never ending ribbons of asphalt kind of stuff. And I think there's another thing we just sort of take for granted,
right.
jumping in a car, filling your car tank up and just driving for hours, driving 5 hours from LA to Vegas or something. It's like
even just the fact that we drove to Idaho last week, and for like 3 days and then drove back. And like, wow, we went through 5 different states in a day.
Yeah.
And totally different climates, different, from the mountains to the plains to the, started in the mountains through the desert.
Yeah.
You're right. And like in between all those places, like, there's not much. It's a lot of empty space.
But it almost feels like, I don't know, at least for me as a Southern California person, learning to drive in the 90s, like that was the dream. That was it.
Oh yeah.
Fill your car up full of gas and just drive, just go. Just being able to have a full tank of gas and a destination maybe in mind. You can get out to the coast, get up to the mountains, get out to the desert, just somewhere. I've definitely always had that obsession of just driving. So I think that's definitely something, like even in, like in the UK, it's like you drive 2 hours, east or west, and you end up in the ocean. and then you really only have about 5 hours to get to the top of from one end of the island to the other vertically as well.
Yeah, and you're in a whole different country.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's compact, and there's like there's variations of accents every half hour you go. Every train stop, like, oh well, now we're in this part of town, so everyone talks like this. Like,
yeah,
okay, really? Everyone just kind of sounds like Monty Python. But sorry, you can't listen.
It is true. Listen,
I've gotten a finer ear of it as time's gone on. But it's
which
but again,
character are you trying to be?
If you're gonna get a different accent, you gotta go at least, I don't know, what would you say? 5 hours, 10 hours in the States? How many accents can you get to? And I'm sure, I guess back east it gets a little bit more compact.
Yeah, back east it's way more compact. Yeah.
Thing, yeah.
Out here, I feel like you really get like
SoCal, NorCal, maybe San Diego variant.
Yeah, but then it's culturally like you get like SoCal, but like Mexican accent.
Right.
Right. I mean, like Mexican accent in the city, and then you get kind of like the like black Los Angeles accent, which is different, like a lot more, whatever slang and maybe even Southern inspired. I feel like, and then you get into the mountains up here, and everybody, I'm like, are you from Montana? Oh. Like, I mean, you really get like almost a southern drawl. Like when you get out.
Funny. It's like self-identification, right? It's just how they identify. Like,
yeah, I mean, even in Spokane, like if you get outside of the city where I grew up, it's like all those kids had Southern accents.
Right? Like, is that a country? Accent? Is it just a country
I think it's
thing?
Just country. I think it's just like talking a little bit slower, and you just get like, I don't know, man. It's a lot of that.
A drawl.
You're all from the city. I'm like, we go to the same high school. What do you mean I'm from the city? I grew up like 2 blocks from the dump. I'm not from the city.
It's so funny. Accents are such a self-identifying thing.
So probably in Southern California, a lot more of the different accents are like culturally different, instead of necessarily like coming from an area. I don't know. Probably
it's a funny one. I'm thinking of like the New Zealand accent, get back to Trevor's thing. I definitely remember when I was there, I was talking to somebody, and a woman introduced herself. Her name was Beck, or Bex, like Rebecca, like short for Rebecca. Okay. But she introduced herself as Beak. I'm like, oh yeah, Beak. Oh, right. Okay. And she heard me say it back, and she's like, no, it's Beak. No. And I'm like, it's Beak. Wait. Like, okay. And then I think she explained it. I was like, oh, okay. And
then you're like, oh, Beck.
But yeah, like Beck or Becca or Bex. Bex.
Beaks. I had that when we went to Scotland for a week.
That's a good one.
It was like, because we were way up in the islands up north. It took me like 2 days to get the accent to figure out
how to
just my brain to wrap around to like, oh my God, the A's sound like this, and the E's sound like this, and okay, I'm starting to get this.
Yeah,
I remember even being in Australia and trying to, everybody says no, but different in Australia. But I was like, what is it? And I sat there with a couple of people, and they're like, what are you talking about? We're just saying no. And I'm like, no, say it again. Say it again. I'm like, no, you're putting like an I at the end. It's noi. 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 They're like, it's NOI. And they're like, no, it's noi.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's noi. Noi.
We've been watching a lot of
way more letters.
We've been watching a lot of Bluey with the kids.
Oh,
and it's fun. Get all the Australian stuff.
So our kids are too old that we didn't ever watch Bluey, but then
you're right.
Now we have some friends up here who have smaller kids.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, then I've watched one and went, oh, wait, this is pretty good.
What was the New Zealand one? I think I saw this online. It was Big Pick, like you say backpack. You can do
Big Pick.
Big Pick. Yeah. Go Big Pick. Big Pick. That's a nice red Big Pick.
So
there's a couple different, accents in New Zealand, but that was one of them. I think it was like, okay, I can lock into that. Just turn my brain around it.
I saw something the other day that was trying to explain the Southern accent, and they said It's actually just a really slowed down English accent.
Yeah, I've
like
seen
the
this
southern
too.
US. Southern US
Is
is
that
like, no,
true?
you take an English accent and then you actually just slow it way down. But then I don't know. This was just on Instagram or something. So I have to do a little
It
bit more
sounds
research.
good. Yeah, I
Yes.
can't tell if that's a thing.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right.
There was
Well,
a
I think
bunch of like cultural stuff in there too of like, well, there's people came from here and this side, this blah blah blah. And like, okay.
Yeah.
Enough of that. I don't need any more information. Just give me the headlines. Let's move on.
Oh God, I'm avoiding the headlines.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's a good place to stop. I will
Awesome.
see you next Monday. We have Troy von Balthazar from Chokebore, the AMREP band Chokebore.
Awesome.
Coming up.
I'm excited for that one.
Thursday. Yeah. It's a cool story. It's a good story. It's personal. He's also calling in from France.
Oh yeah, this is the international week.
This is the international,
or international half week.
Yeah, half month. Should come up
or
with
half month.
A new theme song or something like the European vacation one or something.
International half month. International half month.
Perfect. I'll just loop that. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. See you next time.